Live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka. Good evening, this is the National News Broadcast coming to you live from Rupavahini. Bringing you your stories for today is Clifford Richards and I'm Sharon Masquenius. First, it's a look at the headlines. Cut-off marks of the scholarship examination have been released. The Ambalipitia paper mill recommences production after 9 years. A new project to create environmental gardens by recultivating barren paddy lands. Signs of a world food crisis due to the Ukraine problem and fuel price hikes. On to the main story for today. Now, there will resume fourth round of peace talks. However, we don't see a positive out of it. We can see some kind of talks at least taking place. However, there was a lot of talk with the United States requesting for arms, and this is support from China.
Yeah, and things are getting complicated by the day.
United States say that Russia had asked China for military equipment to use in its invasion of Ukraine.
And also, however, China has rejected the US assertions as disinformation. And meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine resume peace talks today as well.
A United States official has indicated that Russia has asked China for military and economic assistance, a request that heightened tensions about the ongoing war before a meeting between senior US and Chinese officials in Rome. In advance of the talks today, the United States have warned China to avoid helping Russia evade punishment from global sanctions that have hammered the Russian economy. Yet the Chinese government today accused the United States of spreading disinformation over China's role in the Ukraine war. Foreign reports have indicated that China was not interested in providing military support to Russia and has opposed the actions of the West in providing military equipment, including arms and ammunition, to Ukraine, as they observe it as adding oil to fire. The Russian authorities have also denied it has sought Chinese military help. Beijing and Moscow forged close ties earlier this month amid increasingly acrimonious relations with the United States and its European and Asian allies. The fourth round of peace talks between Ukraine and Russia began today via video link. Diplomatic efforts to end the war in Ukraine are stepping up, with Ukrainian and Russian negotiators set to talk again after both sides cited progress over the weekend. Ukraine's objective at peace talks were to secure a ceasefire, the immediate withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine and security guarantees. Russia continues its bombardment of many Ukrainian cities, with 2 persons killed in a strike on a block of flats in the capital, Kyiv. Mariupol, a Ukrainian port city, is suffering constant shelling, bombing and some street battles, local government authorities have confirmed. Thousands of civilians have been trapped there for nearly 2 weeks, surrounded by Russian troops firing rockets and shells, which have destroyed many buildings. The number of refugees fleeing Ukraine since the Russian invasion is now nearly 2.7 million, the United Nations have said. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeated his calls for NATO to implement a no-fly zone over Ukraine. He warned that its member states would soon be attacked by Russian forces after an airstrike hit a Ukrainian military base close to the Polish border. The Ukrainian president, in the meantime, visited hospitals in the country to check on those who were injured from the conflict.
Як ви, хлопці? Та ні, хорошо. Тест вас. Дуже поважаю. Дякую.
Дякую.
Відданих дій, виїзної записи державного суверенітету.
Dark times indeed, and truly devastating images coming there on our leading story for today. Now, while the pandemic caused a severe disruption around the world, there were other issues that curtailed to it. From the year 2022, a global crisis started or continued as emergence when Russia and the Ukraine invasion continued. This all leads out to tourism, various other sectors as topics that really reminds us of an important area, the food crisis. And to speak to us in detail and also to bring us some insights on this topic, joining us today is the senior journalist as well as foreign analyst, Mr. Prasad Dorangodage. So this world is really crippling with dark moments, and however, this whole crisis of a global issue begins with oil. How do you see this in the perspective of oil and different sectors coming into play, and also the topic of food crisis?
Yes, Sharon. The economic consequences of this whole crisis are very high. And first we saw a beginning of global energy crisis fueled by skyrocketing oil prices. Now we can see first signs of a global food crisis. Sharon, I would like to highlight a statement made by the chair of US Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. Recently he addressed US Congress and he mentioned that every $10 hike in oil prices, would impact growth by 0.1% and add 0.2% to inflation. That for the United States of America, right? So therefore, last week we saw the US released their economic data for the month of February, and we saw the inflation rate was high as 7.9%. That was the highest since 1982 in 40 years. And the situation in other countries are same, more or less same. And now the latest crisis, as we mentioned, the skyrocketing food prices. Now there's a fear, there are some fears looming due to this very high food prices, especially the wheat prices. We saw the hike of global wheat prices by 40% when we compare to the prices of last year. Now this is mainly because of the Ukrainian crisis. Both Russia and Ukraine, they account for more than nearly 30% of global wheat production, and they are and also 20% of global corn production, as well as 80% of global sunflower oil production. Now WFP, World Food Program, told BBC they are facing some food shortages, the supply shortages, because WFP is the main organization that provide food relief for the crisis hit countries like Yemen and in Congo and some Central African countries. Now WFP said they are losing 50% of their wheat supplies, because they get 50% of wheat supplies from Ukraine. And they warned, the WFP warned that if this crisis drags on, there could be a famine in crisis hit countries like Yemen and Central African countries. This is the very dark picture currently we can paint about the global economy and this whole crisis, Sharon.
Mr. Prasad, do you think the Asian market will suffer more?
Definitely now, because due to high wheat prices, this will impact for, Asian countries as well, because wheat is one of the main commodities. And again we have this energy prices, oil prices. Even today the Brent, the price of crude oil barrel, Brent benchmark price was about around $105, still above $100 mark, which is very high. I mean very devastating impacts for global economy. So naturally now we talk about the situation in United States and European countries, but this impact will come to us as well, Asian countries, especially the developing countries. The countries like Sri Lanka, we are the most vulnerable nations, because we import a lot, and yeah, we depend high on some wheat imports and oil imports. So it will be a, we can say, a drastic situation for countries like Sri Lanka.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Prasad Dorangodage, for bringing us those insights on the world crisis and what's happening at hand as well. We're going to move on to our next story for today. The Grade 5 scholarship exams is the first hurdle for any student that is out there. However, 22nd of January is when they took the examination and the results were released yesterday. There were good news, positives, and also cut-off marks as well. Clifford, to bring us the story.
Yes, Sharon. And in case someone is not very satisfied about the marks he or she has received, well, there is an option, because the Department of Examinations says appeals for rescrutiny or recollection results of Grade 5 scholarship examination could be presented till the 31st of this month, and the district cutoff marks of the examination were released today.
Conducted on the 22nd of January, and 335,158 students have sat for the exam. The results were released last night. The results have been fed into the official website of the Department of Examinations, www.donets.lk or www.results.exams.gov.lk. However, the national or district merit levels have not been released this time with the results. 20,000 students who are eligible to receive student aid, and 250 of the recipients should be students with special needs. The relevant cut-off marks have been provided on district basis and also based on the number of marks received by the candidate and the medium in which he or she appeared. Accordingly, the single medium candidate cut-off mark in the districts of Colombo, Gampa, Kaluthara, Kandy, Matale, Galle, Mathura, Kurunegala and Kegol is 152, and the Tamil medium cut-off mark for these districts is 149. The Tamil medium cut-off mark in the Mullaitivu district is 147, and the Sinhala medium cut-off mark for the Mullaitivu district is 140. Congratulations to all the Grade 5 scholarship candidates, and you have the opportunity to reapply as well. Moving on to other stories now, the director of the International Monetary Fund for the Asian and Pacific regions, Chang Yong-ri, has met Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa today. The objective of the meeting was to discuss the economic situation in the country. The IMF Asian and Pacific Regions Director is on a two-day official visit to Sri Lanka. Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, S.R. Artigala, also took part in the discussion along with the Finance Minister. The IMF Director is scheduled to conduct talks with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa tomorrow. The Presidential Media Division says that the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is scheduled to address the nation on the 16th of this month. The time will be notified later.
Moving on with more local stories, Minister S.P. Dissanayake says that all should get together and find solutions to the existing problems with patience, he says. He has made these remarks on the occasion of reopening of the Ambalipitia paper mill. Well, the Ambalipitia paper factory has remained closed for a period of 9 years. The Korean Spa Packaging Private Limited has spent a sum of 3.5 billion rupees in the recommencement of the production. The factory is scheduled to manufacture annually 75 metric tons of paper. Chairman of the Korean Spa Packaging Company Private Limited, Anura Aberatna, says that this will be extremely successful, and the Venerable Dr. Omalpe Sobitathera were also attending this event. Minister S.V. Dissanayake said that the people in America are shouting for not having gas when Great Britain is experiencing a huge oil, gas and food crisis. The war between Ukraine and Russia has affected 1/4 of the global food production. The problem relating to gas and oil production affects 1/4 of the global population, he said. Minister Dissanayake further said that they had encountered the same problem in the year 2009 but resolved it without telling the country. The minister further said that it is necessary to gradually resolve problems without getting upset.
In other stories, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna parliamentarian Sudarshana Denipitiya accuses the opposition for infuriating the masses through spread of false information. He has made these charges at a media briefing of the SLPP in Colombo today. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna parliamentarian Sudarshana Denipitiya said that the opposition is engaged in a program to arousing the people. He added that the opposition parties in other countries join hands with each other and try to come out of the problem. MP Denipitiya also pointed out that the people should act with a sense of understanding on the upcoming crisis situation. He also said that present government is engaged in efforts to find the necessary solutions, but added that, however, some of the issues are beyond the control of the government, including petroleum, oil and gas resources.
Well, the Samangi Jana Balawege parliamentarian Nalin Bandara says that his party does not extend any support to the efforts of certain groups to create racist and religious camps. He has made these remarks at a media briefing at the party headquarters today. Samangi Jana Balawege parliamentarian Nalin Bandara said that even groups such as Vimal Veeravansa are trying to emotionally deceive the masses without any foundation. He added that they are happy if anybody is criticizing the government. The parliamentarian further said that, however, if such persons attempt to regroup and arouse once again feelings based on communalism and religious fanaticism among the people, they are against such acts.
Now, receiving the vaccine is important to protect yourself as well as others. Health divisions say that any person is able to receive any vaccine as the first dose according to the choice. The Deputy Director General of Health Services Specialist Physician Dr. Hemantha Herath has clarified on this issue.
Director General of Health Services has issued a circular guiding the vaccination program where any person, especially those who are above 20 years of age, can now get the Pfizer vaccination as first dose, and therefore any person who wishes to get the Pfizer vaccine as their first dose, now they are able to get this vaccine through the nearest MOH or the vaccination center nearer to you. This circular has been issued basically because of the high demand for the young age groups, those who are willing to go or planning to go abroad for educational and employment purposes, where certain countries have insisted on having the Pfizer vaccine to enter their countries. This situation is now more or less eased, but still there are places where they are still demanding the Pfizer vaccine. So to cater that situation, the Director General has now issued this circular where anyone who is willing to get the Pfizer vaccine are now able to get that. You have to either to meet or contact the medical officer of health of the area, who will guide you to where you should go to get the vaccine, especially the clinics or the vaccination centers conducted by the medical officer of health, at least in the MOH office or nearby area, or in certain hospitals or other places. They are conducting these vaccination centers. So you are now able to get the Pfizer vaccine from these vaccination centers.
The Urban Development Authority has commenced a program to create environmental gardens by recultivating abandoned paddy lands. The program is being carried out on the instructions of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and through mediation of the Ministry of Plantation Industries.
And in fact, the project of turning the Holuwagoda barren paddy lands into Diyadam Agroecological Garden is being carried out these days. Well, the Holuwagoda Diyadam Environmental Garden is a concept of the Minister of Plantation Industries, Dr. Ramesh Pathirana. It is an environmentally friendly project. 19 acres out of nearly 200 hectares of abandoned paddy fields have been utilized in this program. 95% of work of the project has already been completed, which include the construction of reservoir, walking lanes, restaurants serving indigenous food, children's parks and shops. A total investment amounts to 302 million rupees. The project is located 11 kilometers away from the Gold City.
In other stories for you, the Paddy Marketing Board says purchasing of 18,700 metric tons of paddy in the northern province has been completed under the guaranteed price scheme of the government. The purchasing of paddy in the districts of Vavuniya, Jaffna, Manna and Mullaitivu is being successfully conducted. Northern Province Regional Manager of PMB WMNR Veerasekara says that the paddy harvest is being purchased in 24 storages. A kilo of Nadu paddy is being purchased for 90 rupees and a kilo of Samba paddy for 92 rupees. A kilo of Kiri Samba is being purchased for 95 rupees. The examination of the fundamental rights petition filed against a group including former President Maithripala Sirisena on charges of violating fundamental rights when adequate intelligence information were available to prevent the Easter attack has commenced in the Supreme Courts today.
And in fact, 12 petitions in this regard have been filed by relatives of those who were killed in the attack, Reverend Catholic clergymen, also the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. The petitions are being examined by a 7-member panel of Supreme Court judges headed by Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya and comprising of Justices Buanak Aluehara, LTB Dehidenia, Murthy Fernando and S. Thurayraja and AMMD Nawaz and Shiran Gunaratna. The other respondents in the case include former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando and former IGP Pujit Jayasundara. Further hearings of the case have been postponed till tomorrow. The Colombo Magistrates Court has ordered to further detain until the 29th of this month of 3 suspects, including retired physician Dr. Shirley Hera, who have been arrested in connection with the detection of a hand grenade at a hall at All Saints Church in Boralla. The complaint was brought before the Colombo Additional Magistrate Rajendra Jayasuriya. Assistant Superintendent of Police, Colombo Crime Division Neville Silva says that investigations are continuing.
Minister Gamini Lokuge, addressing a media briefing in Colombo today, said that the government was compelled to increase the selling price of fuel after taking into consideration of the increase in the international oil prices for the past 3 months. Minister Gamini Lokuge said that they have given $500 million to purchase fuel. He added that this sum will be made use to purchase the stocks. Minister Lokuge also said with the increase of the US dollar rate, not only the fuel requirements but the entire economy come under changes. However, under the prevailing difficult circumstances, it is necessary to engage in such measures. The minister also said that in order to meet the rising costs, additional 5,000 rupees have been added to the salary of the government employee and an extra allowance of 1,000 rupees to the Samurdhi recipients and pensioners. The government does everything possible to relieve the burden of the masses. Minister Lokuge also said that the government has a good understanding of the difficulties being experienced by the people. He has also expressed hope of somewhat resolving of the issue with the ending of the Russian-Ukraine crisis. He also said that prior to the eruption of the war, ceilings of oil production and production quotas for countries have been reserved. He added that there has been information regarding the removal of such quotas. If that happens, the prices would further decline. The minister also pointed out that there could be a change in supplies with the elimination of Iran's sanctions. Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi says that another thermal power station will be established in the premises of the Kalanithissa power station. She has made these remarks upon inspection of the present status in the power stations established around Colombo today. The minister's attention has been focused on the Sujitsu in Kalanithissa, Kerawalapitiya, Sapgaskanda and the floating power station in the Colombo harbour. Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi said that the government's target is to fully accomplish the power requirement of the country. The minister also said that a task force has been appointed on the instructions of the president for the generation of electricity via equipment fixed on the rooftops of houses. Minister Vanyarachi also said that 100% of measures will be taken to resolve the power issue in the country. She also said that they are hoping to commence work this year to at least add 1,000 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. Meanwhile, the Public Utilities Commission says that a power cut exceeding 3 hours is being carried out today as well. Accordingly, power discontinuations take place from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Well, we are now moving on to more local news items in brief. Well, the State Minister of Container, Warehouse Facilities, Container Yards, Boats and Shipping Industry Development, Lohan Ratwate, has commenced duties in his post this morning. A group including Minister Rohit Abe Gunawardena was present at the event held at the Ministry of Ports and Shipping. A Women's Day program dedicated to the presentation of challenges faced by 8 women in 8 prominent fields and finding relevant solutions has taken place recently. Minister Dallas Aloha Peruma presided over the event organized by the Frederick Norman Foundation for Freedom and the Next Gen organization. The first batch of participating people in the Raid Amazons Tourist Women's Sports Festival arrived in the island today. The group included 260 females competitors. 60 students and 3 teachers were injured in an attack of wasps at the college in Monaragala. Well, that's news at home. We take a short break and we'll be back with international stories shortly.
Prima Stella Set Yogurt. Be healthy, be active and be safe.
On foreign news now, devastating stories and natural disasters. A 6.7 magnitude earthquake struck in Indonesia and a 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck in the Philippines. However, good news is that there is no immediate casualties reported.
And also no threat of a tsunami as well. Well, this is a strong 6.7 magnitude earthquake that struck off the west coast of Indonesia, Sumatra Island, according to the United States Geological Survey. Strong and shallow earthquakes shook the western Indonesian and Philippines main island the early hours of today, rattling buildings and sending panicked residents fleeing. Officials in both countries said that there were no immediate reports of casualties or damage and there was no tsunami threat from either quake. The epicenter of the earthquake is reported to be 167 kilometers west of the coastal city of Pariaman. The European Mediterranean Seismological Center said that the earthquake was of 6.8 magnitude. The earthquake was felt most strongly on the northern Sumatra's island of Nias and Hibala.
Meanwhile, the death toll in a train crash in southeastern Congo has been revised up to 75 with 125 injuries. International Day of Action for Rivers observed on the March 14th. Officials on Saturday gave a toll of 60 men and women and children killed, 52 injured in the accident which occurred on last Thursday night when a freight service train derailed. The new toll came following the visit of the country's railway companies to investigate the disaster site. Among those injured, 28 were in critical condition. Foreign media has reported that the train had been up of 15 wagons, 12 of them were empty.
Well, Sharon, the International Day of Rivers is observed on the 14th of March every year globally. And this day is in fact dedicated to saving and also celebrating and creating awareness about the importance of rivers. Well, in fact, today marks the 25th edition of the International Day of Action for the Regeneration of Rivers. Attending a ceremonial event to mark the day, the Indian government is expected to release a detailed project report for the transformation of 13 major Indian rivers through forestry. International Day of Action for Rivers is celebrated globally to raise awareness about the importance of rivers and how useful the river is for human beings. The International Day of Water and International Day of Action for Rivers were initiated in the first meeting of the people affected by major dams in Curitiba, Brazil, way back in 1997.
On your sports news tonight, it seems like a victory day for India as India beat Sri Lanka. However, 14th century for Dimuth Karunaratne, and what a day it is. We also say or bid farewell to another brilliant cricketer from the Sri Lanka cricket team.
Yes, not just a victory, but a major victory for India. And, well, disappointing news for Sri Lankan cricket fans, but anyway, definitely a great game of cricket. India has been successful in securing a 238-run victory against Sri Lanka in the second test of the current series, which ended today. Well, accordingly, India won the series 2-0. This was the final test appearance of Sri Lankan paceman Suranga Lakmal. Well, the match was played in Bangalore, India. The Indian team amassed 252 runs in their first innings. Sri Lanka repeated with a paltry 109 in their first innings. India ended their second innings with a formidable state of 303 for the loss of 9 in their second innings, leaving a victory target of 447 for the visiting team. The Sri Lanka team commenced their second innings in a somewhat progressive manner, but lost its first wicket at the score of 28. One of the successful batsmen in the Sri Lankan second innings was Kusal Mendis, who scored 54, recording his 12th half-century in Test cricket. Dimuth Karunaratne has also played a captain's innings by registering his 14th century in his Test career. Karunaratne scored 107 and Niroshan Dickwella 12. None of the other players were able to succeed the 10-run limit. The ninth fallen wicket, that was of Suranga Lakmal. Indian cricketers have extended their best wishes to Suranga Lakmal, who bid farewell to Test cricket. Well, Sri Lanka's second innings score was restricted to 208 runs. The successful Indian bowlers were Ravichandran Ashwin, who took 4 wickets, and Jasprit Burma taking 3 wickets. A special feature of the match was India securing victory with 2 days remaining. And the man of the match was Shreyas Iyer, and the man of the series was Rishabh Pant.
With that, we end the national news for tonight. Together with Clifford, I'm Sharon, wishing you a very pleasant evening.